Until now, scholars had always presumed that the two volumes, which are brightly illustrated, dated back to the early 11th century. However, recent carbon testing has proved otherwise, giving a date between 330 and 650, suggesting that they are among the oldest Gospels in existence. According to the monks, the Gospels were written by Abba Garima, a Byzantine royal who arrived in what was then the Kingdom of Axum in 494 AD and went on to found the monastery. The incredible Garima Gospels, named after Abba Garima who copied them in a day, have since been kept in the Abuna Garima Monastery
and the Rocky Mountains of southern Turkey. On the African periphery of the Middle East, across the Red Sea from Saudi Arabia, is the ancient land of Ethiopia.
The world's first illustrated Christian Bible is in Ethiopia and was handwritten in a day. Today we'll explore the rich and mysterious history of this ancient text, uncovering secrets and stories that have been hidden for centuries. In this viewing experience, I invite you to explore this ancient text with an open mind and a pure heart. Please enjoy this video until the end for a special gift. The origin of the Ethiopian Bible. The Ethiopian Bible, also known as the Ge'ez Bible, is one of the oldest and most complete biblical canons in existence. It was written in Ge'ez, an ancient South Semitic language. According to Ethiopian tradition, it was translated during the reign of King Ezana of Axum in the 4th century. This Bible includes not only the Old and New Testaments, but also unique books like Enoch, Jubilees, and others that provide a richer tapestry of spiritual teachings. Unique books in the Ethiopian Bible. Unlike the Western Christian Bible, the Ethiopian Bible contains several unique books such as Enoch, Jubilees, and the Shepherd of Hermas. For instance, the Book of Jubilees provides detailed accounts of biblical events, elaborating on Genesis. Jubilees 129 states, "And the angel of the presence who went before the camp of Israel took the tables of the divisions of the years from the time of the creation." This text offers a calendar of events from creation to the Exodus, emphasizing the role of divine intervention in human history. The Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch is one of the most intriguing texts included in the Ethiopian Bible. It provides an expanded account of the story of the fallen angels and their offspring, the Nephilim. Enoch 6:1-2 states, "And it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of the heaven, saw and lusted after them." This vivid description adds layers to the narrative found in Genesis, offering deeper insights into ancient beliefs about angels and their interactions with humanity. Influence of the Ethiopian Bible. The Ethiopian Bible has played a crucial role in the religious and cultural life of Ethiopia. It has influenced Ethiopian art, literature, and religious practices for centuries. Psalms 68:31 in the Ethiopian Bible states, "Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands unto God." This verse has been interpreted as a prophecy about Ethiopia's spiritual significance and its enduring faith. The Lost Gospels. The Ethiopian Bible includes several lost Gospels that are not found in the Western canon. These Gospels provide additional insights into the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. For instance, the Gospel of Mary, which is part of the Ethiopian canon, offers a unique perspective on Mary Magdalene's role in early Christianity. In this Gospel, Mary is depicted as a close disciple who receives special teachings from Jesus, highlighting her importance in the spiritual community. Dark truths revealed. Despite its rich history, the Ethiopian Bible is shrouded in mystery and controversy. Some believe it holds dark truths and hidden secrets that challenge conventional biblical interpretations. The Book of Enoch, for instance, describes the punishment of the fallen angels and their offspring in graphic detail, which has led to various interpretations about divine justice and the nature of evil. Enoch 10:12-13 describes, "And when their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, till the day of their judgment and of their consummation." The role of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church has preserved the Ethiopian Bible for centuries, safeguarding its teachings and traditions against external influences and challenges. The Church's dedication is reflected in the preservation of manuscripts and the oral transmission of biblical stories and teachings. The Church considers the Ethiopian Bible a living document that continues to guide and inspire its followers. Modern discoveries. Recent archaeological discoveries and scholarly research continue to shed light on the origins and contents of the Ethiopian Bible. revealing more about its historical and spiritual significance. For example, researchers have found ancient manuscripts in Ethiopian monasteries that date back over 1,000 years, providing valuable insights into early Christian practices and beliefs. How about a quick quiz? What does the term basic instructions before leaving Earth stand for? Comment below if you know the answer, Einstein. Wowzers, tough crowd, please hit the like button. Pages from the world's first illustrated Christian Bible discovered at Ethiopian monastery. The world's earliest illustrated Christian book has been saved by a British charity, which located it at a remote Ethiopian monastery. The incredible Garima Gospels are named after a monk who arrived in the African country in the 5th century, and is said to have copied them out in just one day. Beautifully illustrated, the colors are still vivid and thanks to the Ethiopian Heritage Fund have been conserved. Abba Garima arrived from Constantinople in 494 AD, and legend has it that he was able to copy the Gospels in a day because God delayed the sun from setting. If you are to ever make it to the Abuna Garima Monastery in Ethiopia's Tigray highlands, you would find a book that is highly revered by local monks and believed to be one of the Christian world's oldest and most exquisite treasures. The book, which is kept securely in a bright blue circular hut at the center of the remote monastery, is thought to be the world's earliest illustrated Christian Bible, otherwise known as the Garima Gospels. Legend says the texts were written in a day in the 5th century after God intervened to delay the sunset. Experts believe that the book, written on goatskin in the early Ethiopian language of Ge'ez, is also the earliest example of bookbinding still attached to the original pages. There are 2 volumes which date from the same time, and the 2 10-inch thick volumes contain illustrations and the 4 Gospels. Until now, scholars had always presumed that the 2 volumes, which are brightly illustrated, dated back to the early 11th century. However, recent carbon testing has proved otherwise, giving a date between 330 and 650, suggesting that they are among the oldest Gospels in existence. Orthodox Christianity writes that the survival of the Gospels is incredible considering the country has been under Muslim invasion, Italian invasion, and a fire in the 1930s had destroyed the monastery's church where the volumes were allegedly kept. For about 1,600 years, the Garima Gospels have been in one piece in the same place, and generations of monks that have guarded them have their own legend about how the Gospels came into their possession. According to the monks, the Gospels were written by Abba Garima, a Byzantine royal who arrived in what was then the Kingdom of Axum in 494 AD, and went on to found the monastery. The incredible Garima Gospels, named after Abba Garima who copied them in a day, have since been kept in the Abuna Garima Monastery in the north of Ethiopia, which is in the Tigray region at 7,000 feet. The survival of the Garima Gospels may have been due to the fact that they were hidden, perhaps for centuries or even for more than a millennium. The hiding spot may have been forgotten, and it could have been rediscovered by chance in relatively modern times. In 1520, Portuguese chaplain Francisco Alvarez visited the monastery and recorded that there was a cave, now lost or destroyed, where Abba Garima was reputed to have lived. Alvarez reported that the monks would descend into it by ladder to do penance. Although speculation, it is possible that the Gospels may have been hidden in this cave. The world's first illustrated Christian book is nearly 800 years older than the King James Version and contains 88 books as compared to KJV's 66. It includes the Book of Enoch, Esdras, Baruch, and all 3 books of Maccabee, and a host of others that was excommunicated from the KJV. The Ethiopian Heritage Fund, a British charity which works in preserving the many beautiful artifacts in Ethiopia's monasteries, recently finished restoring the Gospels that had become fragile. Lester Capon, a British bookbinder, said he spent 3 weeks working with the monks in the remote monastery to rebuild and restore the bindings that held the pages together. I'd seen photos when I was preparing for this work, but seeing this book in real life was astonishing. It was big. You could kill an ox with it. It was beautiful. The colors were vibrant. But the condition was poor. It had the look of a burst mattress, he was quoted by The Guardian. He further told The Independent, "The monks won't even let the books out of the monastery, let alone the country. To them, it really is a magical book, written by their founder. To begin with, they were very nervous about having someone mark and take the pages out of their book, but they soon understood what we were doing. Capon has been binding books for more than 30 years in the UK, but restoring the Gospels turned out to be a serious challenge." The Guardian reports that he set up a bindery in the monastery courtyard, which attracted the attention of monkeys. I kept an eye on them as I was fearful that one may jump down from the roof, grab a folio, scrunch it up, and run off down the hill. The Ethiopian Heritage Fund announced in 2010 that it hopes to build a small museum at the monastery to not only house the newly restored Gospels, but to enable visitors to view them. Ethiopia has been overlooked as a source of these fantastic things, Blair Priday from the Ethiopian Heritage Fund said recently. Many of these old Christian relics can only be reached by hiking and climbing to remote monasteries, as roads are limited in these mountainous regions. All the work on the texts was done in situ, and everything is reversible, so if in future they can be taken away for further conservation, we won't have hindered that. The pages had been crudely stitched together in a restoration in the 1960s, and some of the pages wouldn't even turn, and they were falling to pieces. The Garima Gospels have been kept high and dry, which has helped preserve them all these years, and they are kept in the dark so the colors look fresh. This was the most astounding of all our projects, Priday said. As we uncover the forbidden history of the Ethiopian Bible, we gain a deeper understanding of its profound impact on history, religion, and culture. Isaiah 11:11 in the Ethiopian Bible states, "And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people." Are there books missing from the Bible? One really must answer that question with the question, which Bible? The Roman Catholic Biblical Canon? The Low Church Protestant Bible? The compilation of biblical books accepted by the Ethiopian Church? The answer really depends on what tradition's Bible you're referring to. Biblical scholar Dr. James H. Charlesworth explained. Also, Dr. James Sanders informs us, when one uses the word canon, one must specify to which denomination or community of faith it refers, even within Judaism and Christianity. The point is, there are so many different Christian canons or compilations of the Bible, not simply different translations, but actual different lists of canonical books. That saying this belongs or that's missing isn't really a feasible task to undertake. Development of the biblical canon. A very brief look at the development of the biblical canon might help in attempting to grasp how sloppy the whole canonization process was. So often, various denominations speak of the Bible as a production of God, in the sense that he controlled every element of a given book's receipt, recording, preservation, canonization, and circulation. In this view, there was no human component and no potential for error. Truth be told, were that the case, the caution expressed in the quotes above would be unnecessary. Summarily speaking, the Pentateuch was canonized in its final form sometime between the 6th and 5th centuries BCE. The prophetic books, such as Isaiah or Daniel, were formalized and canonized shortly after the Pentateuch, probably during the 4th and 3rd centuries BCE. The canonization process of the writings and wisdom literature, like Ruth, Esther, Song of Solomon, etc., did not begin until sometime between the 2nd and 1st centuries BCE, and some think it did not conclude until as late as the 2nd century CE. Why so late? Well, it has been argued that since the Jewish people had prophets living among them, they likely felt no need to write these things down. That may or may not be the case. However, it is fair to say that it wasn't until Judaism's multiple captivities, during what is commonly called the intertestamental period, when Judaism no longer had what we would call a prophet at its head, that we see the oral traditions of that faith being formally codified and canonized. Prior to that time, these were stories commonly told and perceived as authoritative, but with variant strains and unique versions circulating. It wasn't until the 2nd century of the Common Era that Christians began to take a serious interest in determining a New Testament canon to be used alongside of the Septuagint, the Greek version of the Hebrew Bible, which was commonly used in the 1st century. Again, there are a couple of potential reasons why the late canonization of the Christians' holy books happened. First, we must not forget that the Christians initially saw themselves as Jews who had found the Messiah. So, the Jewish canon was their canon, if they had a canon at all. In his book The Formation of the Christian Bible, p. 62, Hans von Campenhausen argued, early Christianity is positively not to be regarded as a religion of the book. For New Testament Christians, to a great extent, the Hebrew Bible, or Old Testament, was mostly authoritative as a proof text that Jesus was the long-awaited Messiah. However, since they saw Christ as fulfilling the law, The book was definitely seen as an Old Testament, and the use of the Old Testament by Jesus and his disciples makes it clear that Christians really did not see themselves as bound by or under the authority of the Hebrew Bible or its laws. Second, when the first-century apostles were martyred, Christians began, for the first time, to see the value in collecting and writing down what had previously only been shared orally. In this sense, they were much like their counterparts in pre-Christian Judaism, only seeing the need to record and preserve prophetic utterance when the prophets had disappeared. Third, many historians see the influence of the second-century heretic Marcion as motivating Christians to create a set of canonized books. By all accounts, Marcion was one of the most influential heretics of the 2nd century. His father was a bishop in the early church, as was Marcion. But the latter of the two fell in with a Gnostic teacher who influenced his beliefs about Christianity. He believed the God of the Old Testament was not the true God, but rather a wicked God that was ignorant and contradictory. Marcion believed that the Old Testament was good as literature but was doctrinally corrupt. So he created what some have called the first New Testament canon. It contained the Gospel of Luke and 10 of the epistles of Paul, each of which having been carefully edited to remove any quotes from the Old Testament. All of the other Gospels and New Testament books Marcion believed were heavily corrupted by the Jewish Christians. Because his teachings and canon quickly gained in popularity, the mainstream church very much needed to combat those, and according to many, this motivated the church to consider more seriously the need to create its own authorized version of the New Testament. By the 4th century, the church had produced a new Christian canon from the documents they had been using as authoritative and sacred. There were a number of things that helped to determine the canonical worth of a given letter, epistle, or gospel. 1. The support of major figures within the church. 2. Popular use made a difference. 3. The status of the writers of a given document were also considered. In other words, if a text was authored by an apostle, it carried more weight than a text that was not. All of that being said, there are some specific differences between which books certain denominations hold canonical but which others reject. These books are not missing per se, but are absent from various Bibles utilized by certain traditions. First of all, there's the Apocrypha or Deuterocanonicals. They include additions to the Old Testament books of Daniel and Esther, in addition to the books of 1 Esdras, 2 Esdras, 4 Maccabees, and 2 Maccabees, Baruch, Ecclesiasticus, Judith, the letter of Jeremiah, the prayer of Manasseh, Tobit, and the wisdom of Solomon. These books would have appeared in the Septuagint, the Greek version of the Old Testament commonly used in Jesus' day, but would not have been included in Hebrew versions of the Old Testament of his day. Today, the vast majority of Christians, statistically speaking, have the Apocrypha as part of their tradition's canon. Second, there are a number of books mentioned in the Bible which do not appear in most current biblical compilations. Examples of books referenced in the Old Testament but not found therein include the Book of the Covenant, Exodus 24:7, the Book of the Wars of the Lord, Numbers 21:14, the Book of Jasher, Joshua 10:13, 2 Samuel 1:18, the Book of Samuel, 1 Samuel 10:25, the Acts of Solomon, 1 Kings 11:41, the Book of Samuel the Seer, 1 Chronicles 29:29, the Book of Nathan the Prophet, 2 Chronicles 9:29, the Book of Shemaiah the Prophet, 2 Chronicles 12:15, the Acts of Abijah, 2 Chronicles 13:22, the story of Edo the Prophet, 2 Chronicles 13:22, the Book of Jehu, 2 Chronicles 20:34, the Sayings of the Seers, 2 Chronicles 33:19, the Book of Enoch, Jude 1:14, the Book of Remembrance, Malachi 3:16. Like the Old Testament, the New also makes reference to scriptural texts that apparently were authoritative within the church during the 1st century, but are not in most Bibles today. As examples, the following Pauline epistles are referenced but absent from most printings of the New Testament. A third Pauline epistle to the Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 5:9. An additional Pauline epistle to the Ephesians, Ephesians 3:3. Paul's epistle from Laodicea, Colossians 4:16. Whether such texts should be considered missing from the Bible really depends on the degree to which one agrees with the canonization process and the decisions made to limit the New Testament to its current commonly accepted 27 books. The word canon means measuring rod or measuring stick, and implies that which is authorized to judge a doctrine or practice as right, orthodoxy, or true. While many low church Protestants only use the Bible, and primarily the New Testament, as the standard or measuring rod to determine what is true, right, or orthodox in addition to the Bible, most in the high church Christian traditions rely on the councils of the church, the teachings of the early church fathers, and any long-standing traditions of the church as canon.
Capital city of Ethiopia is the sprawling city of Addis Ababa. Here in this city, on the eve of World War II, the Italian governor of fascist Italy caused the massacre of 30,000 Ethiopian patriots in a vain attempt to end their resistance to foreign conquest. But this ancient African empire, the oldest independent native state in Africa, was never to abandon her tradition of fierce independence.
If this video added any value to your understanding of the Ethiopian Bible and the biblical canon, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the Mythic Time Machine. For great gifts and gadgets, visit meggdigital.com, enter code TREASURE, and get 20% off.
Reef sails! Reef sail! Set sail! Set sail! Set sail!
The Middle East links three continents: Africa, Asia, and Europe. North of Ethiopia